So we'll continue with the role of a dentist in forensic investigations. So last class we saw what is the basic principles behind forensics. We saw the various changes that can happen to a corpse after it is exposed to various environmental changes. Then we saw what are the various methods for identification, including your conventional methods and recent methods. The conventional methods involved comparison of dental records, postmortem and antemortem, comparison of radiographs, postmortem and antemortem. Then we had bite mark analysis. We could see DNA samples from oral tissues can be used for confirmation. Facial reconstruction can be done. Even tongue prints, lip prints, and Rogue prints can be used for identification. So today you will go through the various steps that are needed for identification by a forensic investigator. So whenever you are invited for a forensic investigation, the dentist should have an idea about the various legislations that is being into effect, and there are steps which he should follow to identify the deceased person or the person who is being a suspect. So what happens is the steps are a preliminary evaluation of the scenario or the scene where he is invited to have a opinion about. He must do a post-mortem examination of the samples which is provided to him. He must do a ante-mortem investigation to collect all the relevant data which will be helpful. Then he must compare the existing data with the post-mortem and ante-mortem material which he has collected, and he must conclude what could be the possible outcome. And this results are communicated to the investigator of that forensic incident for further legal proceedings. So you must have a preliminary evaluation followed by a complete post-mortem examination, collection of all ante-mortem data, compare the existing data which he has collected, and he has to come to a conclusion. Okay, so preliminary evaluation. See, this is a picture of a crime scenario where a person has been murdered at his residence. So what happens is when such a scenario is happening, you should examine what are all the things that are there. You could see that his face is tied up and he has injuries on his forehead. He has bruise marks behind the ear, and you can see his hands are tied. You can see blood on his pajamas also. And with these, what happens is you could at least guess what could be the nature of the incident and what are all the other scenario which is there. So based on the scenario, you should be able to identify what could be the possible role which you can play. So the main purpose of such investigation is to find out what is the cause of death for such individual. So a preliminary evaluation will give you a better idea of what the current situation is. Sometimes the scenario may be different. You can see there is a corpse lying in a deep well. You can see a corpse that is burnt. Okay, so what happens is whenever you're going to get such difficult scenarios, you may not have much of data in your hand to ascertain what has happened. In such cases, you proceed on to the second step, which is your post-mortem examination. You have to examine the corpse to find whatever data that is possible. You have to chart the data and try to compare that with any ante-mortem record which can be procured. So what happened is I already told you rigor mortis. If you remember last time, that is as the body is exposed to environmental condition due to contraction and spasmodic effects of the muscles, the body tries to become stiffer with contractions everywhere. So this is called rigor mortis, what we saw last class. Okay, sometimes you can get a scenario where none of the other body remains are there, except here you can see there are few jaw bones with a denture. A scenario can be different in whatever case it might be. You try to examine the scenario, then try to collect the postmortem data, compare it with any antemortem data to come to a conclusion. So a postmortem examination is almost like what you do in a living person. If the changes are there, you are reporting at a very early stage after the death of the individual, except for stiffness in the oral cavity, all the other findings will be more or less normal. But as the corpse leads to time, as I told you, it can undergo bloating, it can undergo saponification, it can undergo decomposition, or sometimes if it is going to be burnt or skeletonized, you don't have much tissues, the tissue becomes rigid. In such cases, you may have to surgically excise the tissues to access the teeth. Sometimes even jaw bones have to be excised either by osteotomy of the maxilla or the mandibular ramus has to be done for you to gain access to the teeth. Sometimes you can see the skull has, imagine here, you can see a big gaping open wound in the skull. And see again the cranial vault is fractured. So whenever you're going to see such skeletal line changes, you must know whether these changes happened post-mortem or perimortem, that is at the time of death or after death, or some of these are actually present before death also, that is ante-mortem. That's why you must always have the data, you must chart it out, and you have to compare that with the ante-mortem record to know whether some changes have happened at the time of death, or it has happened after death, or it is existing from before death only. Okay, so once you examine the teeth, its conventional charting system, your universal or FDA system can be used. You try to identify the decayed teeth, the missing teeth, the teeth that are filled, the teeth that have dentures, the teeth that have implants, any orthodontic braces, any myofunctional appliances, any cortical plates, your fracture lines, any malunions, whatever it might be, take a note of all that and you note it down in a standardized dental chart. So with this postmortem dental chart, you can compare the existing data from your regular ante-mortem. Ante-mortem means before the individual's death. We can compare that with the record in order to get some idea of who the individual might be. You also do radiographs, intraoral and extraoral radiographs are possible. You can do IOPAs, you can do an occlusal radiographs, you can do orthophantomogram, a lateral oblique to compare that with the pre-existing data. You can identify any endodontically treated teeth, any healing of extraction sockets, and you can even identify tooth color restorations, identify unerupted teeth, because what happens is sometimes because of trauma that happens after the corpse is exposed to the environment, you can get fracture bones, fracture teeth. So you must know if the extraction socket is going to show signs of healing, that means it has happened before the time of death. If the socket appears to be showing no signs of healing, then it might be something that has happened after the individual has died. So with the identification criteria, I already told you, you can identify persons based on visual recognition. You can also identify based on personal belongings like their jewelry, like the tattoos or the other things. But with those clues, you can narrow down your search to few individuals with whom you have to match the postmortem dental data with the antemortem data. Okay, so these records will be useful for comparison. So once you get the antemortem and postmortem data. So imagine, as I told you here, there is a big gaping wound in the skull. There is a fracture of the forehead. Okay, so what happened is all these, and again you can see there is a fracture and there is a gunshot wound near the upper eyebrow region. So what happened is all these will help you to give a clue of what would have happened. You can see many missing teeth, but if you see the sockets are all completely open, few are healed. So if the socket is completely open, it means that the tooth is lost after the individual has died. If the socket is going to be sealed with your new bone formation, then it means it has happened previously. So once your radiographs are there, you try to compare the existing postmortem radiographs with the antemortem radiographs, or if you have any previous models, any prosthetic devices, any old photographs, you can try to compare both the data. So once both the data are compared, you have to use computers to match, or as I showed you yesterday in the last class, comparison microscopes can be used to compare two data simultaneously. So whenever you're going to identify any new finding, you must note it whether it is concordant or discordant. Concordant means findings which could be matched with the existing sample. Discordant, the features which does not match. To identify a person or to exclude a person from the list, all these concordant and discordant changes are very important. So with these filed up data, So with these filed up data, you could identify or exclude a person who is be the suspect or not. Okay. So this comparison can be seen based on presence or absence of teeth, what is the position of teeth, any recent extractions, any unerupted teeth, any morphological changes which you note, abnormality in the crown or in the root or in the pulp chamber, any endodontically treated teeth, placement of implants, brackets, crowns, all this will help you to identify. So whenever you're going to compare, there are only 4 things which is possible outcomes. 1, positive match. Second one, a possible match. 3, insufficient information. 4, exclusion. So what happens is whenever you given any data, 1, it is a positive match. That means the identified person can be identified with the ante-mortem data. Possible means there are many similarities, but you need extra information to give a conclusion. Exclusion means you can say that this is not that person for sure. And fourth, if the data is going to be very less, you give it as insufficient information. So we'll see some examples for each condition. So here what happens is you have a case 1 and a case 2. 2 cases are there. The case 1, you can see there is an ante-mortem radiograph and a post-mortem radiograph, and you can see there is a proximal fillings in both the premolars and there is a filling in the molars. So when you compare that ante-mortem, which is before the patient died, you can see the fillings are matching with each other. So this is a case of a positive identification, because a similar filling with a similar tooth morphology, the root morphology, a pulp morphology with an identical filling gives you a positive identification. There is no discrepancy at all. But this is another case where you can see the teeth and you can see the root apices are still not closed on your ante-mortem. And what happens is you can compare both the data and you can superimpose one image over the other to see whether the features are matching. That is the size of the crown, the size of the root, the angulation of the roots, the size of the pulp chamber, the size of the furcation. If all these are going to match, then you can say that it is a positive identification. So this is your first scenario where there is a almost exact match between the ante-mortem data and the post-mortem data. So which gives you a positive identification. The second case is a possible identification. What happened is you can see there are 2 radiographs taken 5 years apart. So what happened is you can see there are large fillings. There is an endodontic treatment in a premolar. You can see there is an endodontic treatment in a lower premolar. There is an endodontic treatment done. Post-mortem, you can see there is root canal fillings in these 2, whereas ante-mortem they don't have. But what happened is, so this means that because of the time gap of 5, there is a possibility that the same individual would have undergone root canal treatment of the other teeth. But if in case the other identities are missing, other records are missing, then you can say that this is a possible identification and not a positive one, because for a positive identification all the other data should match with the ante-mortem, not just the findings. So this is a case of possible identification. So the first one was a positive. The second scenario is a possible identification. The third one is insufficient evidence or exclusion. So when do you say something is excluded? Can you compare these radiographs A and B? A, there is a molar. You can see in the mandible which has a filling both on the mesial and distal sides, and you have a second molar with a occlusal filling. But whereas in this radiograph you can see there is a mesial filling also in the premolar, whereas here there are no fillings on the mandibular premolars, and you can see the same tooth would have migrated mesially and the 6 is missing. But what happens is the filling is no longer there. So with this you can rule out that these 2 radiographs are not matching. So this is a case of exclusion. Whereas if you see C and D, you can see there are fillings in the maxilla, there are fillings in the mandible. Here in the D you can see there are fillings in the maxilla, but there are no fillings in the mandible. So this is another scenario where there is a matching of the maxillary teeth, but the mandibular teeth are not matching. So with that you cannot say that it can be excluded. you can always report that it is insufficient evidence to come to a conclusion. So whenever we are going to do a forensic investigation, we have to compare the postmortem data which is charted with the antemortem data which you have collected. So if it is going to be a appropriate match, then you can say it is a positive identification. If there are few findings which will help you to remove a suspect or an identification, then you call it as exclusion. If there are data which are many are matching, but you need some more information to conclude, you say it as possible identification. The last one is when you don't have sufficient evidence in hand, say that the evidence is insufficient to come to a conclusion. So we use computerization of all the existing data, which will help you to rapid comparison of all the data which is there in these database. So imagine you have seen in many movies also. So when they say somebody is matching their face or matching their fingerprint, so they immediately scan your Aadhaar database, they scan to get the possible match. So it's very helpful in case of mass disasters like tsunamis, earthquakes, bomb blast, help to identify. So this fast screening with computerized data will be very beneficial. Okay. Whereas in the future, what happens is many patients don't have much of dental disease because of improved oral hygiene, proper dental care. So in such cases, the dental identification only with fillings and root canal treatments will not help. You have to start comparing other data of your jaw bones, the facial features to come to a conclusion. So you can also compare the configuration of the pulp chambers, the anatomy of the root, the trabecular pattern of the bone and others to come to a comparison between the scenarios. Okay, so we'll conclude this topic with this radiograph. So there are two samples, one is A and one is B. So the A is a postmortem sample, whereas B is a antemortem sample. Okay, so you have a postmortem sample which is A and an antemortem sample which is B. So I want the students to identify the features, identify the crowns, identify the fillings, and you have to tell me what could be the conclusion for this case, whether it is a positive match or it is an exclusion or it is a possible match. So I want answers. I want to compare the features between the two OPGs and you have to tell me whether it is a positive match or it is an exclusion, both are not matching with each other, or it is a possible match. Yes, I need some answers.
So possible match.
Okay, why, Neha? You have to justify why it is possible. Yes, others? Yes, tell me.
The possible match.
Yes, Anchal, I cannot hear your voice.
Possible match, sir.
Possible match. Okay. So you got two possible matches. Okay, one say implants are matching. Good. Yes, others? Try to compare what is there in both the radiographs and try to okay, two more for possible matches. Shraddha, Shubhangi. Varun says positive. Rashri says possible. Pallavi also says possible. So from these responses, many are saying it is possible. Few are telling it is positive. Now we'll start comparing the findings. So you can see there is a crown in the maxillary last molar. You can see there is a bridge extending across, and you can see even in the antemortem there is a bridge which is existing across. Okay, and you can see there is an implant placed on the right maxilla. Here also there is an implant placed on the right maxilla. You can see there is an endodontically treated canine. You can see here there is again an endodontically treated canine. You can see there is a post with a core in the maxillary central. Again you can see the same thing. You can see again a core buildup, a crown on the other central which is also matching. Then you have two posts which is placed with a crown, which is again matching with antemortem data. So in maxillary only, you have exact matches of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Data is exactly matching in the maxillary teeth. Whereas in the mandible, you can see in the molar, which is there, which is not there in the postmortem data. So what happened is, here you can see one tooth which is missing. Okay, but this can be lost even after the so you have two implants which are there in the mandible, which is matching. You have a crown in the canine, which is again matching. You can see there is a post with a crown in the mandibular molar, which is again matching. There is a core buildup with a crown on the premolar, which is again matching. So you can see there is almost 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 plus 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, almost 13 to 14 matches are there. So what happens is, few teeth are here, few teeth are not there. That can be lost even after the death. If the corpse is exposed to natural environments, it can be lost even after death. But there are almost 13 to 14 matches between both the dentition. So when you get so much of exactly matching data, you can say that it is a positive outcome. So you can positively identify that the postmortem victim is the antemortem individual whose records you have collected. Okay, so with this, I will conclude this lecture. I will log in again to clear your doubts.